Welcome back to LivAnimated.com. Let's learn something new. We left off last where we skinned up our clothing to our model. What we're going to be working on tonight is working on finishing up the face skinning so that we can begin to do some facial animation for our character. What we're going to do, or what we're going to have to do, is go back to our last saved file, and from there we're going to work on this in sections so it's more digestible. We're going to work on the eyes and the eyebrows first, and then from there will be subsequent videos to follow. So let's go right into it. Let's open up Maya. Let's go to our last saved file that we had, and so that should be for me it should be number 17 when we're working on the skinning. So we're going to open up the number 17 file. And the reason why we're doing this is because if you try to use the deformation toolkit, those joints will not show up. We've encountered that problem earlier before with the breast joints, and we had to go back and go to this phase, make sure that they're skinned, and then it worked for us. So we're going to do that same thing again, but we're only going to worry about the eyes for now and the eyebrows. So right now, what we want to do is open up our rig creator. So click on that. You have your rig creator. This is where you can. We're going to do the rest of our skinning before we build our rig. Everything's already set up from before. If you've been able to save this file, which you should have, the changes we make here, we can go right into build rig, and we're right back to square one, and we can export out our base mesh, where then now we can see our eyes looking around, blinking, and then the eyebrows moving, and we're going to test all of our work as well. So right now, let's zoom in. We're going to work on our left eye to start. If we go to our mesh and select our mesh, what we're going to want to do is, everything should be in here. Yes. So let's go to our left eyeball is what we're going to do. We're going to go to vertex mode. Let's go to show, and then let's hide our joints so they're not in the way. Select one of the vertices on the eye. We're going to hold down shift and hit the period key over and over. And right now you can see that these are all weighted to the head, which is what we did before, just so we can get our skinning for the full body complete. We're going to go back and select the joint eyeball left, and we're going to hit 1. So now these are all weighted to the eye. Let's do the same thing over. Let's make sure we have everything selected. All right, I don't think there's any more. I just did another shift period. Hold down shift and hit period. We're going to hit 1 again. All right. So now we're going to go over to our right eye. Select a vert, shift period, get everything selected. And we're going to go, this one's going to go to our right joint, eyeball right. You're going to hit 1. All right, you can see these changed from the head to the correct joint that we want to use. So now let's go back to our left eye. All these eyelashes, we have a joint for those as well. Not for each eyelash, but for the upper lid and the lower lid. So we want to do, if you scroll down inside of the skin joints box, what you'll see is that we have joint, eyelid, lower, and upper for left and right. So joint, eyelid, left, upper is what we're going to do for our upper lid and our eyelashes. And then lower, we're going to do the lower lid and our eyelashes. But for now, let's go back to object mode. Let's go to show and unhide our joints, and let's select our eye joint. So the best way to do this, we're going to go back into our outliner. If you click over here, let's scroll down to root, shift click on the root so it opens up everything. Let's scroll down to our eyeball left joint, hit E. E is going to bring up your rotation, and then let's just rotate that around. From where we placed our center pivot, we should see that the eyeball is rotating around. Now see, in this and how this is set up, this model looks like it's not white on the top and on the bottom because this was not built texture wise for this. I'll go in and show you how we can adjust that so that it is white all the way around and it won't look creepy when they do this and it's like, why are her eyes bloodshot? We don't need to worry about that right now though. Everything's working. Let's look at the other one. Let's go to our right eye. Yep, it's rotating in place. Good. That means our rotations, our pivots for our rotations that we selected when we first started are on point, which is great. So now we can go back to hide outliner. We can go back to show and hide our joints. We want to select our mesh again. We want to go back to vertex mode. We want to go in now and we want to select each vert for the eyelashes. The best way to do this is select a single vert for each lash that we see. And then we're going to hit the shift period keys, hold down shift and hit period over and over until we have them all selected. That's what we're going to do first. And we're going to weight those. So the best thing to do is to zoom in, select. Let's hit W so then our gizmo isn't all in the way. Hold down shift and select more verts. So I'm just going through right now and selecting one vert for each eyelash that we have visible. Now your character may not have eyelashes. It's not very common for characters to have eyelashes that are going to be set up this way. They're normally set up as like an alpha card or some other method. But because this one is set up as geometry, which is really cool, it's going to be cool to see these working because they should be able to work in the engine as expected, which is going to be awesome. Usually when they're just cards, now you got to deal with your alpha channels. You got to deal with, is the alpha reading in the engine and working appropriately because it's overlaid on other things that may have an alpha. Like a lot of times the eyeballs will have an alpha to catch glare, and you know that the shininess and the specularity over the eye is usually on a different texture. Usually that'll fight with the alpha that's on the eyelashes and it looks kind of creepy. But because this is geometry, it works. So now we're going to hold down shift and you'll see everything lighting up yellow. Those should be all of our verts. It looks like I missed one. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go over back to our skin joints, and we want to select the appropriate joint for these, which would be joint left eyelid or joint eyelid left upper. So select that, hit 1. There you go. So now what we have to do next is we need to be able to look at our character and visualize where the eyelid is at the upper part of the eye. So if we look at from this vert, let me hit F to isolate. Just want to rotate down a little bit. So try to follow along with the segments. So if you look at these rows right here, 1, 2, 3, and follow the segments around, this row of segments comes up this way around the eye. And goes this way. This row of segments comes up and it keeps the same space of the tessellated quad into a tri. A tri is 3 points, 1, 2, 3. This equals a triangle. A quad is if you do 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we were to look at this as like one quad, these 4 points, these 4 points. We're just going to follow around where the segments would be. So this row goes all the way around this way if you go down. So we're going to have to take this row of segments, this row of segments, and this row of segments and start to blend them together so that when we close our eye, like how I have it here, my eye is closed right here, we're going to stretch in the model, we're going to stretch these verts that would be my upper eyelid down, and then when I open my eye, they're going to go back to normal. Because this starts with them in the normal positioning or the default positioning of where you want this is going to be like our 0, and 1 is going to be when they're closed. So that's what we're going to work on now. Is there a way to move these eyelashes out the way? I am unsure. Unless we do an isolate, but that's an isolating of the selection. Let's start to plot out some of our verts, and then we should be able to isolate what our selection is. So we know that we want, I know what we can do. All right. Let's go out of this mode. Let's go back to object mode. Let's go to show joints. And in the showing of the joints, what we want to do is we want to set some keys that we're going to delete. So let's go back to our outliner. So I just opened up here. Go back to our joint eyeball L. We're going to set a key. No, not joint eyeball L. We want to go joint eyelid L upper. There you go. Hit E so that we can go to our rotation. We want to set a key. So hit S. And we just set a key on frame 0. Now let's go to frame 30. Hit S again, set another key. But this time we're going to rotate on our Z axis so that we can move the eyelid down. As you can see, we'll have to blend this in later, but we're rotating down the eyelashes. And it looks like I missed another eyelash, but that's fine. So let's just rotate this down to here. And what this is showing us is once we get the eyelid how we want, we're going to have to go back to these eyelashes and do a little bit of fall off so they're not 100%. We're going to have to make that work based off of how we're deforming the eyelid so that it matches and they don't look like they're swimming around. All right, so there we go. That's going to be easier. So we just we rotated it down. Make sure you set another key. All your channels over here should have keys on them now. Let's go back to closing the outliner. We're going to hide our joint. So go back to show and then click joints and hide it. You can still scrub through and see the motion on here, which is awesome. It's awesome to be able to see that so that you don't have to worry about having it up here and then you're trying to look at these verts. It's so much cleaner. But what we will see is as we start weighting or skinning these verts to be influenced by that joint, they're going to start to pull down onto the eye, and we'll start to really start to see how the deformation is going to look. The other thing in this that I can already see is going to happen is we're going to get a little bit of stretching, which is going to look like tearing of the eyelid because of how the texture is on there. So if you look at where my cursor is right now, you see how the texture starts to bleed over into this row of quads up here. It gets even darker right here and right here. That's going to look like it's tearing and bleeding down. We'll have to see what it looks like. Usually with that, the artist will go in and smooth out those tones so that they don't stretch as much. So we'll see what we will need to do with that. For right now, let's select this last eyelid or eyelash that we missed, and we will go over and skin this to the appropriate joint right here, and then hit 1, and there it goes. It fell into place. So let's start with our row of verts that is back here on the eye because the eye is sunken into the eye area quite a bit. If you look at it this way, you know, there's a little bit of room for how this sticks out. So we're going to start with this row of segments. So we'll have, go back to W. We have this one, this one. We want to turn on our wireframe mode so that we can see things a little bit easier. So let's do that now. So we're going to go wireframe mode. This doesn't look easier, but believe me, you get used to seeing stuff like this. So right now, we want to make sure we're not selecting the eyeball and we're selecting the correct vert. So what you'll see is this is the vert we have selected. And all you need to do is follow the line. Oh man, that looks like it's right on the eye. Look at that. And we're looking at this vert right here. It looks like it's right on top of the eye. So let's do something else so that we can make this a little bit easier for ourselves. Let's go back out of wireframe into our smooth shade all mode. Let's go back to object mode. Let's go back to the outliner. Let's go to our joint eyeball left. Let's set a key on that on frame 0. So hit S. And then on frame, let's just do frame 5 just to be safe. Hit S again. And now let's move this out on our x-axis. All right, there we go. Hit S again. And there you go. Now we're going to go back to the outliner, close that back, select our vertex, go to frame 30. And now we can see it a little bit better. So we move the eye out the way. Those vertices were exactly on the same point, which is awesome because it shows that the modeler took into consideration the centering of the rotational axes of where the eye sits and where the eyelids are, which is going to be good for us because when we rotate the eyelid down, it should contour really well over the eye. So that's good, but that did make it difficult to see because they all fell on that one point. And if you selected the wrong one, now you're selecting the eyeball, and you're like, oh, everything looks good. And then when you rotate it, the eyeball's deforming wrong. So we just moved it out the way. It's still fine. It still works where it's at once we go back to frame 0 and kill these keys. But we can actually select things a lot easier. So select that whole row of verts. We are going to give that a value of 1 for the upper eyelid. So once you have them all selected, let's scroll down over here in our skin joints area, and we're going to select joint eyelid L upper, and we want that to be 1. So as you can see, they already started to conform down. And now what we want to do is we want to just take these next sets of segments and start to blend them down. Now that was a flat. The way it's modeled, we go to the other one to look at it real quick. That was a flat row of verts. Like you see how that's flat? So we're going to want the inner and the outer to be 1. So we're going to select that next row and we're going to make that 1 as well. So let's select not this one right in the corner of the eye, but the one next to it. And select each vert. On the corner of the eye, you can kind of leave that one where it is, but we're going to select these verts right here and then going to hit 1 again. So this is where we start to get into that tearing like I was telling you about. The next row of verts, what we can do is we can actually start to blend them. Do a 50-50, and the 50-50 that we're going to be blending between is going to be between the joint eyelid L upper and the head. So right now they're already weighted to the head. We just need to give it a little bit more influence for the eye controller. So let's select the next row of segments. And let's do this for the eyelid upper at a 50%. So we're going to hit 0.5. It's going to look a little broken out here, but we're going to address all that once we get to it. So that's at 50%. Let's do... I kind of like how that contour is up there if you look up on this one, but we're going to give it a little bit of influence. Not a lot. We'll do like a 2.5 or something. We want to see what that looks like because I like how it's giving that hard contour, but we still want to bring that down a little bit. Like that nice edge. It kind of goes with the how the model design was for it. So let's do a 0.25. That might be a bit much. That might be a bit much, but it looks kind of cool. What does one look like? That's not enough. 2.5. That looks good. We can bring the other one down a little bit more though. Is this one a part of it? It is. So let's do all of these again. And we'll do these to, we can do increments of 0.10. It's already 50-50, so let's do 60-40. That looks pretty good. So now what we need to do is we need to, if you scrub through it, we need to make sure that the corners of the eye are not breaking into the skin of the lower part of the eye. And the way we can do that is we have to give it back some of the influence to the head joint. So let's go and delete some of our keys right quick. Let's go back to object mode. Go back to the outliner. Select our eyeball. Go to frame 5. Select these keys. You can either put the cursor, not the cursor. Let me see. You can either put the time slider bar on frame 5 since we know that's what we picked. Or if you're like, I can't eyeball it, you can click this right here on the time slider. This will take you to your next key always. So see, it goes to 0, it goes back to 5. You only have 2 keys. You can right click on this. And what I did before was I just did a shift click to select and drag over it in order to select. You don't have to do that. You can use either way. So let's use this one. Right click on it. And you want to delete that key. Go to our next key. You want to delete this key as well. All right, so now we don't have any more keys on our eyeball, so we can see the eye blinking over the eyeball. But you can see that tearing and stretching that I was telling you about. So that's something that we can also go and adjust in our texture as well. But for now, we're going to leave it how it is. So we want to rotate this lid down a little bit more than what it is so that we can just get an idea of just how far is far of where we would actually want to do it. So hit E, rotate it down a little bit more. I want to rotate it down to where this part, the highest crest type part of the eye lid, is down kind of touching the lower lid, because the lower lid doesn't really, we're not reptiles, or some people think we are, but we're not reptiles. We want to make sure that our lower lid doesn't have to come up and meet the eye too much. We're not going for a super cartoony feel for this. It's fine to have it go up a little bit when you're blinking, but it shouldn't go up this much. If we were to leave it like this, the lower lid shouldn't come up that high. That'd be kind of strange. It'll look strange. So let's just say this is our max extreme that we have here. So we can set a key, and now we know where our max is. So now we need to go in and blend. We need to go in and blend from here out to the skin and give that influence back to the head joint. So that's what we're going to work on now. So we can close the outliner. We can select our mesh. We can go back to vertex mode. Let's kind of scrub back so we can go select our keys. And we're going to start at one end and work our way around. So we're going to select this vert, which is a 1. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go back and we're going to give this a little bit more influence here on the head joint. So we're going to select the head joint. Again, inside of our skin joints is where you want to select that. And now let's just use our increment set weights, the custom weight values here. And let's go up by value of 0.1. So as you can see, as I'm going up, this one cleared. So you kind of want to deselect that one. Let's keep going up. This one just cleared. Let's deselect that one. Oops. And we still have this last one. We're at a 60-40. Oh, let's leave that one there. That one looks like it may be fine too. Let's go to our next set of verts. So we can scrub back. Yeah, we can scrub back. That looks good. Let's select 1, 2, 3. Scrub forward. And so now what we want to do is we want to, again, select the head on our skin joints. And we want to go increments 2, 3. That looks like a pretty good spot there. So now this one is a 0.43 and a 0.56. That's a bit much for this one, but not for these down here. So let's select this one back, and we're going to go back to the eyelid upper. Let's give a little bit of this back so we can have a nice contour there. We might want to give a little bit back to this one too. There we go. Yeah, that was one too much. All right. So it looks pretty good. Let's go to our next set. That's a little bit too low. Let's go back to that one and give that one back a 60-40 for the head joint. For these two, we want to give them a little bit back to the upper eyelid. Maybe we can do a 0.05. Yeah, let's do a 0.05. 0.05. All right, that's good. It's going to be the beginning of a nice curve that we're going to have there. The rest of this looks good until we get to the end over here. So let's open up the eye again so we can see what we're looking at. And I think we're going to have to, select these verts over here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to have to start blending those out. So scroll forward. The one that's right here might be fine, but let's just adjust that as well. We can always take it back to what it is. We're going to go and select the head. And let's go back to our increment of 0.10. And let's just start giving that a little bit more influence back to the head. All right. So what we're going to do is let's bring that back. Let's bring that back. Undo is what I'm doing right now. So we want to add this to the head, maybe 1, 2 right there. Deselect this one. And now bring the others up. There you go. What happened just now that I had to use the undo was that the vertice, I'll show you this vertice right here, the one that's red that's showing up that I'm hovering over. We went back so far where we put that back to the head at 100%, And once we did that, when I hit the minus to take it back down to what it was, the system didn't know what, or the program didn't know what I needed to go back to, because once over here, this goes to 100%, it takes off whatever the other joint is that it was being influenced by. So that's why I just undid Control Z a few times to get it back to where it was, and it's fine. So now what we want to do is we want to go to that next row of verts. So we can go back this way. Let's go back even more. So the next row for us is going to be this one and this one. We also want to grab, these are cuts differently a little bit. So we want to go to our wireframe. And from the wireframe, we want to select the next vert that goes down, which is this one right here. All right. So let's scrub forward. Now let's give some influence to our head joint. 1, 2. That's pretty good. Let's reselect this vert and give that back to the eyelid. All right, that looks pretty good. The only other thing that I would want to do is, you see how this is a weird curve? You're going to want to bring those back a little bit so that it's a smoother curve and it doesn't go like this. It doesn't go down, up, and then back down. That's not correct. So we're going to want to take these up a little bit so it's a nice smooth curve. For now, we're going to leave this row of segments alone. We're only going to worry about these two right here. These two rows of segments, this one, and we're going to do the other side. And once we get it to be flat, a little bit flatter, then it'll be fine. So we need to bring these up, give them a little bit more influence to the head because they're 100% on the eyelid left upper, which is fine for now. But we're going to do increments of 10, or 0.10. So that brought that up. That works well. Do the same thing to this row of verts over here. I just hit F so I can see a little bit better. And I'm not going to see it that great, so I'm going to go back in my keys. There it is right there. So now we're going to go all the way back forward, and we're going to do this one increment of 0.10 as well to the head. All right, that's pretty smooth, which means we're going to have to do a little bit more right here as well. If we can reselect this joint, we have to go back to wireframe. That's this one right here. And you'll start to see these two as you use 3D more, make the distinction of where you are in this wireframe world. But you want to select that vert that goes right here and it meets up to this one. We're going to scroll back down on our time slider. I want to give this, let's do a 0.05, 0.05. I want to give this a little bit more influence to the head. Let's do a 0.2, 0.02. Boop. That looks good. That looks pretty smooth. But I think we need to bring these guys up a little bit more. Again, select the head. Let's go back to our 0.05. That's better. Let's do another 0.02. That looks pretty good. So see, what I'm going for is this nice clean line right there. All right, so now let's work on getting the eyelashes to look right. So the ones in the center you can leave at a full 100. As we start to work our way down this way, you can see they don't really fit that much anymore. So let's do these on a 1-by-1 basis. So select the first eyelash. Again, you may not have eyelashes. You may not need to worry about this. But it's something good to know just in case you do want to do a 3D model for your lashes. Now these are all going to be to the joint eyelid L upper that we put them on before. We're going to want to give these influence of the head joint. And let's leave this at a 0.05 influence. And then we can go by increments of 0.05. And you want this to just be stuck right into the eye. You hit F. You want this to be stuck right onto the eyelid like the others. I think you do it one more time. We're at a 50-50 right now. Yeah, let's do that where it's sticking on that part. You can always change this to make sure it looks good based on how you want it to look. But for right now, let's just get them to look like they're still on the eyelid. And then as we blink the eye, we can edit this more. So same thing here. Select your next one. Go to head. Give it a little bit of influence. Same with these. I want these to be grouped, moved. So I selected a vert from each one. And we're going to move these up as well. We'll do one more. Oop, that's too far. Go down. This one might be too far too. So since we're in these crazy values, we can do 0.02. I'll do it like that. These are kind of grouped clusters. Oh, no, they're not. They're good. So I'll just select one at a time. We'll do a 0.02. Again, select the head. Get that plucked back in there. For the next one. Head. So see, this one doesn't go all the way in. Yeah, it does not. So one thing we might have to do too is we can go in and lengthen these out because they're kind of sticking outside the eye. You just don't want to have any issues later when you're starting to blink of why things are like clipping and not looking right. So I just want to move this one up just a little bit. Looks pretty good. And then leave all these how they are, and then we're going to move these back. So let's begin to move this one right here. And the other one's looks like it's connected a little bit, so move them at the same time. All right, we're still going to keep our same head influence and a 0.02. Move that up a little bit, but you can see that one is not. That one is not moving up enough. So let's just select that one. See if we can move that one on its own and what that looks like. Yeah, we're going to have to pull that one in a little bit. All right, let's select our next one. These are down really far. Select the head, and we're going to go up 0.02 increment. This one's floating away too. So we're just going to take the last row, this, and this. We're going to pull them into the eye. Let's scroll back just to make sure we're selecting the correct set of lashes. And these look like they're a little connected with how they're modeled. So we are going to bring those up at the same time. Let's just go to like frame 20. Head joint, and we're gonna do 0.02. I mean, you can go even crazier with this and have a set of joints out here if you want to do some secondary on the eyelash itself. That'll be a little overkill for what we're doing because we're going to use this inside of a engine, non-cinematic purposes, but for game animation, gameplay animation. So I think this is fine how we're doing it. That's why most of the time you won't even see it like this for game models. All right, so head and then 0.02. I'm going to select this one over, move it up just a little bit more next to it. That looks better, but we're going to have to pull that one in too. All right, let's scroll back and go and select this next eyelash. Do the next one. Same thing over and over and over. Select the head, select the verts, same thing. Move this one up until it fits. I think we might have a few more. Yeah, we got 2 more. So let's select these. Move these back. Ooh, for the head. Let's go back a little bit. Just want to see how far up that goes. Oh, it's not enough yet. This one's not enough either. I don't like that. I like that better. More. Let's do this one a little bit more too. All right, I think this is the last one. Let's scroll back a little bit more. Frame 15. I just want to see how far this is going up into the eye. We still got a little bit more wiggle room. All right. All right, that looks pretty good. So we might need to bring these 2 down a little bit more, but we'll see how they're conforming. That doesn't look too bad. We can bring it down a little bit. So we want this one to be more to the joint eyelid upper. So we can do it like that, bring it down a little bit. And then let's see if we bring this one down a little bit, what that looks like. All right. Let's save our file. We haven't saved yet, so let's do a save scene. Let's save this as 18. Now let's scrub through. All right, and now let's go to object mode, right click, go to object mode, select off of that, So now if we blink, you can see it starts to go down. We will have to go in and touch this texture though, because this is going to look bad. That's going to look bad. Looks like she's got like a black eye. All right, so that's working. We gotta do the bottom lid now though, and then do the other eye. So let's do the same thing. Let's take out the keys. So what we're gonna do is turn our joints back on. Let's go to show joints. Go back to our outliner. Make sure we can select the correct joint. Joint eyeball. No. Joint eyelid left upper. Let's go to 30. Let's delete this key. Let's go to frame 0. Delete this key. Now there's no keys, which is good. Now we're going to go to the eyelid left lower. And we can turn off our outliner. Set a key on 0. Go back to 30. Set a key. Hit E. Rotate this up a little bit. We may not need to rotate it this far when we're animating, but we just want to give it like the highest limit that we can think of for now. And we're going to do the same thing. So set a key. Let's go through our show button again. Hit joints to hide them. Let's go through each eyelash and just put this as 100% for now to the lower eyelid controller. Vertex. So we want to hit W. Let's select a vertice for each eyelash for now. We'll get these out the way first, and then we'll come back and conform them a little bit more to the eye once we are able to blink it from the bottom. So shift period. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go 100%. Go over to our skin joints, and we want to select our eyelid lower and click 1. There we go. That's pretty high up there. That's fine for now though. But now let's select this. We want this to be at 100%. This is that liquid layer. I never deleted it out of the model. It's great that it was modeled in there, but it's like that tear duct liquid area. So the eye looks wet. I've noticed that this has been added a lot more and more into models. I left it there just because I don't think I have a texture allotted to it or any specularity allotted to it. So we're going to just skin it because it is a part of the model. I don't want to delete it. I may want to have a use for it later. So, but that's fine for now. So let's go in and select the verts for it. And we're going to skin this 100% to the lower eyelid. So that's fine. We want to take this row and keep it at 100%, much like what we did for the upper eyelid. We're going to conform it a little bit after the fact, but for now, we want it to be 100%. So I'm just going through and selecting all those right quick. All right, good. So we want both of those to be 100% to the lower eyelid, and we'll do 1. Let's do these to be like a 0.5. 0.5, and let's do this one to have just like, we'll do this one as like a 0.1 or something. See how that looks. So we'll do a 0.1. Okay. this, you might not need to do 0.12. So we'll leave that one to the head. All right, so let's scrub back down this way. Now you can have more influence down here on, you know, this row. It could be like a 0.001, point, keep going. So now what we want to do is we want to conform this to be a nice angle as well for the eye. The way we're going to do that, though, is we're going to blink the upper lid and then blink the lower lid and set keys on that, and then see how much we need to deform it. So we're back at frame 0. Let's go back to our outliner. Let's right click and go back to object mode. We want to look at the upper and lower right here. Eyelid upper, eyelid lower. So eyelid lower, let's go delete this key. It's too much. Let's stay on 30. Let's go to eyelid upper, hit E for your rotation. Let's rotate this down as far as we want it to go and set a key. I think it looks good. Right there, set a key. So let's look at our lower. We want to rotate that up. We're right where it meets the eye. That actually works. We might need to look and see what's going on right here and adjust that, but doesn't look too bad going up there. And then we can probably conform that a little bit more. So let's go back here. We set keys. Oh man, we didn't set a key. We set a key on 0. Let's undo. Let's go back. Eyelid upper, eyelid lower. Select them both. Set a key on 0. And then let's go to 30. And then let's select eyelid upper. Let's rotate that down again to what we had. Set a key. Go to lower, set a key. Bring that up a little bit. Right where they touch. All right. Everything should have a key on it. So now if we go back, deselect everything. Now we can so what we need to adjust is, you see how there's like the highlight here from the contrasting, you know, pinker spot. If you scrub, you can see we're pinching that down to where it's like almost nothing. Again, that's a texture. It wasn't made for this, is what it looks like texture wise. So we can go and change that when we go in and change the eye. We'll go in and change that. But right now you can see that this wasn't really modeled to do this with the texture in mind. The model looks great still, but we need to make sure that the texture holds up when the model's moving. So let's go to our frame 30. I think what we're going to be able to do here is go back to our mesh, select our mesh, go back to vertice mode. We do need to address this here because that looks messy. So we're going to want to change that. Let's scrub back out and see why it's doing that. All right, so it's doing that because these bits here are not moving. Yep. So I think we want to put those onto the upper lid. So let's select that joint eyelid left upper, and let's give that to 0.2, and let's start. There you go. Start moving that down a little bit, and take this one from being selected. See what it looks like when we keep moving these down. Yeah, it looks good. deselect this one. Where'd that other one go? Let's go back. Wait, where is it going? I don't see it moving. Oh, there it is. Ah, I see. We won't be able to see that one that well. We could probably leave this one to, well, not to the head. Let's see. If we scrub. No, we're not going to leave it to the head. Let's put this one back to the upper. Let's do a 0.5. Let's actually undo that by minusing it. I think that's what we want right there. So if we see it blinking, it still moves, but it doesn't go down as far. And then these actually blink pretty good. It's pretty clean. Now I didn't add this row of segments to it because it's kind of overkill, and I don't want it to look like it's the brow line right here is moving too much. That's gonna be better to go with the eyebrows. So there's one eye. Let's go back to object mode, deselect. So there's our blink. Oops, I hit X. Control Z. I don't think I had anything selected, so that's fine. So now we can go to our outliner. Let's select our eyeball, L. Let's set a key on that. I'm just playing around with the keys. Cool. So everything's working. So now you have to do the other eye. You should be able to follow this tutorial again in reverse to do the other eye. It's the exact same direction. Let's do the eyebrow since we are here. Let's delete our keys off of our eye, and we'll do the left eyebrow as well. So select your left eyeball and the left eyelid upper and lower. Go to frame 30. You can click and drag with shift. Go to delete and then delete our frame 0 because you don't want to have any keys on this. This is your referenced file. This is what your reference file will be. All right, so we got rid of all that. So for the eyebrows, what we want to do is we can close our outliner, select our mesh, go back to vertex, and we're going to do some broad strokes for now. We only have 3 controllers that we're going to use for the eyebrow, which if you look at the character, we have one here right on the front. We have one where that arch starts to appear, and then we have one at the very end, so we can get like a little bit of motion on the tail end of the eyebrow. So what we're going to do is going to be mostly a lot of blending between the 2 joints, but we're going to do some broad strokes right now and then move them around, and then we'll start to conform it. Now with this, we're going to want to have a little bit, since we're not going super cartoony with this, we want to have a little bit of the forehead in this so that the forehead is not super static. And then this other row of verts that we didn't use for the upper eyelid, we're going to actually incorporate that into this eyebrow work. It's going to be subtle, but enough so that when we get mad, we can bring it down to get that nice scowling, like that look of the eyebrows going in and down over the eye without bringing too much of this part of the eyelid down, because that's not how that works. It doesn't happen like that. On some people, you know, as they get older, they'll get a little bit more meat over here that hangs down, and then it will always hang down over the eye. But again, you want that to fit your character. If your character has that, then you need to weight that appropriately. If you have more topology to work with, you're going to want to weight that appropriately as well. So, but for this character, we are going to go in and select, hit W, select these verts right here. All right, and we're going to put all these verts onto our eyebrow. Let's see where that is. Joint, eyebrow, left. I have it as inner. Yes, it's the inner eyebrow, mid eyebrow, and outer. And we're going to do that to, let's do a 0.5 for now. And we'll leave the other influence of the head, so then it's not like too crazy to start. Now let's keep going and select the next couple segments. We're going to want this one to be blended too. So we'll select these rows right here. And we'll do these as a 0.5 for the mid. 0.5. This one right here, I kind of want to do this to the mid as like a 2.5. Yeah. The next couple rows, we wanted to put this right to the tail end. See how this hangs over? We might want to address that, or we might have to add these to it. We'll see how it goes. So we want to do this to the outer. I'll do this as a 1.5. So let's go in and set some keys and see what this looks like and see where we need to start doing our blending. But it's as simple as that to set up the eyebrows. Now, some eyebrows are way more elaborate, and you can do like squiggly, cartoony stuff with it. But again, we're doing this for game animation. It's just so we can convey some subtle emotion for when our character emotes or does something unique. So let's save our file. Let's go back to our object mode. Let's go back to our outliner. Now we're going to set some keys. Let's go to our joint eyebrow. 1, 2, 3. Those are our joints. Hit W. Make sure you're on your frame 0. Hit S. Now let's go ahead and go to frame 30. Hit S again. Let's make sure we're on our local axes. So right now we're in world. Let's go to object mode and go to our local. The way we set this up, it should move along the contours of the head with how we set up our vertices, not our vertices, our gizmos axes. So you can see X is pointing down, but if you rotate, you can see we'll be moving on a really good angle in relation to the head. So let's close some of these windows. So on frame 30, we have them all selected. We're going to move X. Let's do them one at a time. So S, and then we can move this around. See how it's moving a lot? We need to tone that down a little bit. So we can go up. Let's just go up on X axis this way. Hit S. Go to our next one, our mid. Go up on X axis. Hit S. And outer. Go up on X axis. Hit S. So there's a raised eyebrow. We can probably raise it even more than that. There's other things you can do. You can also rotate. But we don't need to get that far into it yet. We just want to make sure we get our blending to look good. All right. So close our outliner, select our mesh, go to vertex mode. And you can see how blocky it looks right here. We want to smooth all that out so it's not as blocky. It looks like, let's go back to object mode and go back to mid. Move this up a little bit more. I want to be on the right frame, frame 30. Move this up a little bit more. Now let's close this and go back. All right, cool. So now you can kind of see, just like what we did with the eye, we want to make sure these contours still look pretty good. We're going to want to blend this up a little bit more into the eyebrow controls as well. So let's get right into it. We don't want this to be influenced as much as it is. So let's go back to our head joint. And we're going to leave it, let's leave it at 0.2. 0.02, I mean. All right. Let's add some of this row. Let's give this, 1, 2, 3. Let's give this a 0.02 for our eyelid L upper or inner. Whoa, upper, lower. That's not what I want. I want eyebrow L inner. Okay. Let's leave this at a 0.2. Give this a little bit of influence. Let's select these next ones, and they're going to get a little bit of influence from the mid. Let's take these down a little bit. Back to the head joints. 1, 2. Back to the head joint a little bit. I want this to go to mid. This one is a 50-50. This is right in the center. So I want this one to be blended to the L eyebrow L outer. This one needs to be blended to something else. Maybe more to the eye. Mid. That looks better. It looks pretty good. All right, so let's this needs to be to the inner. Let's do a 0.02. So I'm adding the center line right here to have a little bit of influence, much like what we did with the back when we brought our shoulders up and out like this. You can see in the back it actually deforms and it makes it where the mesh is moving a little bit for that pixel shift. It'll make it look a lot nicer. So there's our eyebrow. Let's kind of lessen this a little bit. Let's bring this up a little bit more. So let's just select this whole row. This row I do not believe is influenced by even our eye. That's right, it's all to the head right now. So let's influence this. Let's do it in smaller sections. So this will be to the inner eyebrow. This will be to the mid eyebrow. So let's select our mid, left mid, and then we're gonna do this one all the way. I think we did a 0.2 was what I did. So this one will go, these two will all go all the way to the outer as a 0.2. All right, so those are all 0.2. That looks pretty good. Let's give this a little bit more influence by the head. I think I can just do this like this and select head and then go 1, 2, 3. Now I hope that didn't just share with everybody. It did not. All right, good. Let's see what this looks like. Let's turn off object mode, deselect. Save your file. And then let's just scrub and see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. We can probably finesse it a little bit more. But you can see the contour of the eyebrow on the top, much like what I have right here. Like there's no eyebrow hair or anything on it, but you can see when it moves, it actually does move that area of the skin. So when you look at this right here, that moves pretty good. Only reason why it looks like it's like kind of growing and stretching is because I kept everything moving on the X axis. So everything is moving kind of out in a way, as opposed to me trying to keep it conformed a little bit more to a certain type of expression. So that's fine. So right now we have the left eye and the left eyebrow and the left eyelids working. I'm going to save this file. And what would be good is you should be able to watch this and do the other eye and the other eyebrow as well. It's good to do them again by hand instead of trying to like copy weights over, because this is going to be it's going to be good to learn how to do this, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So what we'll do is we'll save that file like that for now, and let's test our work and see and make sure everything is working, and then we'll feel more comfortable going over to the other eye. So let's save our file. We are on 18, so that's fine. Let's just click save again. So now what we have to do, we need to go in and let's close our root. We need to select all these locators, hit delete. So now let's do build rig. Let's select our character. Let's do build rig. Let's save our file first. Save our file. Now let's build rig. Let's overwrite what we have currently. So female, base mesh, continue, overwrite. So let's select these, and we want to go back to putting these on the T-pose. Ah, crap. Wait. Did we delete the keys off our eyebrows? I don't think we did. We did not. All right. Close this. Hopefully it doesn't crash and do nothing crazy. If it does, it's fine. We have it saved. But what we want to do is we want to go and delete the keys off of our eyebrows. And we don't want to do it within. Let's go. We don't want to do it within this. I think it did crash. We don't want to do it while we're creating our rig pose and creating all our stuff. We don't want that saved within our file. I think this did just crash. Oh, it did not. All right, cool. So we canceled it out, but to be safe, let's reopen our file since we saved it. So let's reopen our file. Don't save. You just don't want to have anything saved in there. It would suck if you did. You could go out and go off and delete it, but you don't want it in there while you're doing your build process. So let's go back to where our eyelids are, or I mean our eyebrows. 2, 3. Let's go in and delete these keys. So now if we go into the face, there should be nothing moving. Perfect. All right. So let's hit save again. Let's go outside of our outliner. Let's select our mesh. Let's do build rig. Looks like it's still thinking. And if this doesn't build a rig like it did last time, then we might need to like close and reopen Maya, but it looks like it's working. All right. Continue. Now we're going to overwrite what we had here. Continue. Overwrite. Now let's go in and update our pose here. We're going to change this to be a T pose, that classic T pose, so that our mocap and everything works with it. So we're going to do that arm. We're going to do this arm. And then we're going to scroll down to our legs. And then we're going to click continue. We're going to skip this step. We can bring our model over into view better. Click continue. Let's go back, click continue. There we go. So now we have our image. And this looks correct. Build. So you can change your revision. For your revision history, you can change that to be like is 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and you can put in what you changed and what you added. So that's fine though. We don't need to go through all that. I think it's building the rig right now. So I don't want to mess with it. And then what we're going to do is once the rig is built, we'll go into those controllers that we have and we will set some keys to make the eye move around and do stuff like that. And then we'll re-export that mesh out, open up Unreal, bring that animation into Unreal, and then see the face movement. We may need to exaggerate it a little bit. We can only get so close with it in Unreal for now. and then it should work. And then once that works, I would go back into file number 18 or whatever it was for you for your save file and redo the other eye. And once you have the other eye, you can also go through this same step again, rebuilding that rig, setting it up, and you're good to go. But we're gonna stay and do this process till its completion of testing it. So it should still be building the rig. It's 92% done, it looks like. So we still got a little bit of time. But yeah, if you have any questions, please, shoot me an email. It looks like everything built fine. Shoot me an email. That's going to be in the description below. I'm more than happy to help out, look at your work, give you any tips or anything, or just critique it if you want. All right, so let's go to a new scene. We can close this window. Now let's load in our character, RV2, add rig for animation. Female, bring in your character, add selected. And what we're going to do is we're going to set some keys. We can just name this file iTest. So let's load in our picker. Even though we don't have anything for the face on here, we can actually make a face picker. So when we get ready to animate the face, we can just load up the face picker instead of the body picker. Simple as that. But let's save this file, and we can save this when we get ready to do our other scene too in the animation folder. So that's our idle and our temp. Let's save this one as face test. Face tests. Save. So if we go back to, did we save this pose out? If we go to custom and we go to, did I save rig tool? No, it's not the same thing. That's just the picker. Did I not put in here already? Did I not put in here already the studio library? I thought I did. I thought I had that in here already. Picker. I don't. Okay, so I can't use that. I need to get that on here. Interesting. What we're going to do is let's just put our arms down for now. Let's change these things back to 0. This is going to make them go back to FK. I just want to put her arms down by her sides just so we can see. So I'm going to select this one and this one. Rotate down. All right. So what we want to do is we want to do this in sections. So let's set a key. Let's go to frame 20. Set a key. 40. Set a key. Just so we can see it moving. And then let's take our first and last key, do a copy, right click copy, and then come over here to 120 and we're going to paste. So now we have our eye looking around. And so now we're going to select, if you go to the side, you can see the eyelids. We made them look like these points, so we can set a key as 0. Let's do both. I think I separated these out. Where if you blink, yes, I did. Great. Okay. It doesn't need to be a 50-50 because if they're blinking like this and you're just rotating it, it's gonna be 50-50. We don't need to do that. But it will be easy to set our keys. So let's just set our key here. Let's set a key on frame 10. We can blink, continue to blink. So now let's just select the upper one. Go down more. Now let's select the lower one. All right, so now we can hold that. And then let's open the eye back up. Go back to your frame 1 or 0, and then we'll open the eye back up. Paste. I'm just going to move that forward a little bit. All right, now let's just copy and paste this. Copy, and then come over to 85, and then just do a paste. So now, blink, looking around, blink, looking around, blink. So we can move these forward a little bit more. All right, cool. So now what we want to do is we want to click Save. Go to our outliner. We want to select our root and our base mesh, not the underwear one, just the base mesh. And we want to export that out. Let's check our arms. Did we set keys for these? We did. All right, cool. So root and then our base mesh. We want to export selected. And we are going to export this. And we'll name this eye test. Or what was it? Face test. Because we can just keep reusing the same file. We are 120 frames. So I want to check and make sure it's 120. See, that says 200. So you want to check that. It takes whatever the last frame is here. So we want to change this to 120 so we don't have a lot of dead keys. And then click Export Mesh. All right, that should be fine. Go close. Our file is saved. Let's open up Unreal so we can test our work, bring it in. You should still have the same project that you had from before. So let's just open up the old project. Once the project is open, we want to navigate to where our file was saved and bring that in. So let's go to our animation folder here. And then we're going to go back to here to where our folders are located. Face test. So click and drag it into your scene. You want to load in your, let's do female, there you go. Select that. You don't need the mesh to be imported. Import all. There you go. Close this window. Click save on your file. You can drag it into the scene. Now she's going to have her underwear on because the underwear is a part of the file that we have set up. So now if we click play, full screen, we should see her eye. Oh, wait a minute. All right, so the eyeball's not moving. Again, the same thing like we did with the underwear. We have to update our rig file. That's right. So let's go back here. Let us, we have this saved, so let's do new scene. That's right. Every time you make a change to the rig, you got to update the rig file and the animation until you get the rig how you want it. Then you don't have to touch it anymore. But during this phase of us testing and looking at our work, we have to update that as well. So let's go back to our Art v2. Let's close this window too. Close our outliner. Art v2. Let's go back to edit rig. I don't know. I think I must have misclicked on that. Load up your character. All right. So what we're going to want to do is it did not bring up our window over here. Let's try that again. Animation tools. That's not the same thing. Let's try to load it one more time. Let's do edit rig, female, base mesh, edit selected. All right, this still is not the tools I was looking for. Animation tools, edit for animation, edit rig, rig creator. That's not the tools I was looking for. I'm looking for the deformation toolkit. So let's open up another Maya. Sometimes when you close the windows on the side, it doesn't refresh those windows appropriately. So we're going to just open up a clean Maya. And we're going to close the other Maya. All right, there we go. So now Art v2, let's go to edit rig. It should bring up a window on the side that gives us like the deformation toolkit, the export rig, and it's from there where we want to, there we go. So this is what you want to see. You want to see this right here. So we want to do export skeletal meshes. Click OK. What this is going to do is it's going to extract out in your scene just the joint data and the mesh. Let's look at Unreal. Let's look at what we're about to update. Let's go back to our rig folder. You can go to your view options down here and you can change the scale up here to see what things look like. So we can, because we don't have this, we have this as one mesh right now. Yeah. So we want to update the one where we select the clothes and the mesh. Now we have one where she's naked is too. That is not how you say that. Naked as well. And so we can just select that one to export as well, since we'll have it in the clothes. We can leave the clothes alone. They don't need to change. So we'll export both of these and update both of these so that they're both correct. So just move this out the way. Don't close that. We want to select our root. We want to select both pieces of mesh. We want to export selection. We want to go to where our character is saved at. Export. This one is our FBX rig. So we want to export that. That has both of them together. Export selection. Do you really want to replace it? Yes. All right. Now we just want to select a root and we want to select our base mesh. And we want to export this, export selection, as our naked version. Export selection. Yes. Close. Minimize. Let's go back to here. And what we want to do is we can change these view options to be smaller. I don't like having them super large. Go back to our window. And we want to bring in our naked version. It should just overwrite. That's correct. And then we want to bring in our rig version. That should just overwrite as well. Yep. All right, so let's save both of these. Now we should just be able to press play and we should see the eyeball moving around. Let's go back to here. And you can see her eyeball moving around. Oh, wait, let's go back. And she's blinking and her eyeball's moving around. You can see it right there. So that works. So that's awesome. So you can use this video to go back and do the other eye. I don't want to make this video twice as long for doing the exact same thing. So let's do that and get that working. Go through these full steps again. And what you should have is your character with both eyes moving around and blinking. The other thing we can do, let's do this too. Other thing we can do is we can move the eyebrow, make sure the eyebrow is moving as well. So let's save our scene. Let's do save all, just so we have everything there. And let's go back to Maya. Now what we want to do is we want to open up our Maya scene for animation face tests. So let's open that up. We're going to re-export it out, but we're going to move the eyebrows a little bit, put some keys on them, and then we should be good to go. We want to test these as well. So let's just select all of them. Set a key on the first. Let's reopen the scene. I just closed the old window for the export model that you're supposed to leave open when you're doing your rig export, and it just reloaded my rig. So let's just reopen the face test Maya scene just to make sure we have the right scene open. There we go. All right, the arms are down. Everything looks right. Eyeball should still be moving. Yep, eyeball moves around. So let's select each one of these controllers. 1, 2, 3. Let's set a key. Let's go out. Frame 13. We can also go to our local axes orientation, which is your object mode. And we can start to move the eyebrow around. I'm just putting some poses on here right now. You can select each controller and set some keys on it. I'm just putting in some expressive keys on here just so we can see. The motion may be too large for it, but I just want to see it changing when we're in the engine. I'm going to set a few more keys real quick, and then this is just a test, so you don't have to go too crazy with it. All right, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to select the root rig, and then I'm going to select the mesh. And then I'm gonna make my FBX file. So this is saved. Export selection. Go to where your files are saved. Face test. Export selection. Look at the file. Don't click yes yet. See, this is back to 200. Make sure this is at 120. And then click export selection. And then click yes. Let it export. You already have Unreal open, so what we're going to do is go right back into Unreal. So let's close this. No need to save this file again. Go back into Unreal. Go back into where your file is saved at. Export files, face test. Go back to the animation folder. Bring that in. It should overwrite it. Yep, it does. So now you can just click save. And now we can play. And there you go. So now you have your character in. You have the eyebrow controllers that work for the eyebrows. You have the eyes, eyeball that's moving around, and you also have the eyelids that are moving around. So awesome. That worked. So please go back and look at this video multiple times until you get what you need or your desired result is for your eyeball, your eyelashes, and your eyebrow. This has been awesome. We tested our work. Everything works in Unreal. Hope you learned something new. Thanks. See you again.